So, my name is Neeraj Jain. I'm a cinematographer, and I worked on this project called The Sound of the Wind. The people involved, just director Jared Greenwald and lead actor Christian Quintero and lead actress Stephanie Rons. So basically, I'm just going to start off by giving you guys a log line so you guys have some context to what this film is about. After finding a bag of money, Lucio believes he's being followed and flees for his life. Torn between the pain of abandoning his daughter and the safety of his own life, Lucio is forced to confront his paranoia and fight his inner demons. So, sorry, I'm just going to take this mic off because it's easier. So, originally, we shot a short film, and this short film was basically used as a proof of concept to kind of go to potential investors and kind of take this idea of what we had for a feature film and then kind of distill the idea of it and see if we could figure out a way to like raise the money to make this film. So the short film actually was essentially it started as a way to understand the process of what was going to happen. So when it came to directing it and the way we shot those scenes in the short film, a lot of that was what came into when we went to go shoot the feature film, which was these long takes where Christian was literally in the character for 12, 15, 20 minutes, and we're just rolling. And we are just kind of seeing what happens. And it kind of led me to, as a cinematographer, to kind of think in terms of like, I need to create the space with light and frame where Christian can do what he needs to do, and we can capture everything we need to capture. So, and that was like the very like seed idea of where this film kind of came from. So our original sense of references was pulling from a lot of Americana, but at the same time, because of this character and because of what he's dealing with mental illness and paranoia, there's a lot of reference images of just this sense of loneliness, which you can see from the images on the left side. And then obviously you have like paintings and images from like classic Americana imagery that we've seen in the past. Um, so, yeah. But actually, like the most amazing thing was, despite how many ever references we actually really looked at, the key to figuring out what the look of this film was going to be in terms of lensing and lighting came from when, in our pre-production process during a camera test, we were just, at Christian's apartment, and Christian at some point told me the entire biography of Lucio from before he was born till the first scene of the film in first person. And that kind of really, in a way, not necessarily gave me like, oh, this is what I will do lighting wise, or this is what I'll do with a camera angle or lensing, but it made me understand the character in a way that I don't think I understood completely from the script, to begin with, at least. Or it just kind of deepened that understanding of what I was going to get into. Um, and so in that camera test, one thing I really got to understand was there was two things that we were going to balance with this film. One was emotion, and the second part was actually physicality. So Christian lost almost 30 to 35 pounds of weight for this role. And you can see that in certain scenes from the trailer and the way he acts and the way he kind of embodies this character. It was a very physical performance, but it was also very emotional. So we had to find a balance between what we saw on his face and what we saw in his body. So this is a good example of where we kind of tried to go to, capturing him in the environment, and and then the previous slide. This is where we kind of went for what we see in his face. Also, so then there was this other angle in terms of like a very technical way that we wanted to show that he was being followed. And so with that, we kind of looked to lensing and lighting. And in this, I found these, like in my research, I found these fashion filters actually that were used to create like certain effects like you're seeing here and here as well. So I kind of repurposed them with certain lenses, and I was like, let's see if we can make it work for creating this sense of following, but also what will play into his own paranoia. Um, and now, so this is all like in the pre-production process. This is maybe like at least like 5 to 6 months of conversations and sending references between the director and myself, and really like trying to see like what might work, what might not work, and testing and all of that. Um, and then you get to set, and this is where like it turns into something completely different because no matter what you plan for, that all kind of goes out the window, and you have to adapt, and you have to like think on the fly. And this is where I think, at least in my process, I think this was like the key. And it really happened with this team, and I realized how important like trust is, because when like filmmaking is very collaborative, and you need to be able to trust each other in terms of like certain things, especially in terms of like the look of the film, because on set you don't have time to argue really. So for example, like this frame you see here, this was actually something I did not even shoot because I was in another car behind, and I had to follow from behind on this car, and then I had to pull over because they didn't want the headlights anymore, and we're on walkie-talkies. And then all of a sudden I get back and I'm seeing playback, and I'm like, wait, this was not part of the plan or anything. But they managed to like pull over at the perfect spot where the light kind of just, created this rim light, and it just worked perfectly. And there was often times where we would light stuff, and then we'd be like, can we go darker, or can we go like we had to find that balance. And with this film, because of that trust that we've developed over the years, because I've worked with these people many times, I was able to like kind of push and be strong, at least make stronger choices with the direction that I wanted to go in. And so that was like something that I think was very key to like actually making this film like come together the way it has. Um, and this is again like going back to the physicality. So this is a very interesting scene that I wanted to talk about. It's in a motel. He's inside. The curtains are closed. He has the light on, and then he gets a phone call, and he thinks, once again, his paranoia kicks in, and he opens the window to keep an eye out to make sure that he's not being followed. So, you know, a lot of what happened was this was a discussion of how lighting can be influenced by the script and how the story exact, so to speak. So I couldn't turn on any lights inside, and I had to light his face somehow. And it's maybe like a 7-minute conversation. And how do you make that visually interesting, right? So we started by playing with just this, natural light from the outside that's coming in on his face. And then at some point, I was like trying to like see how we can change things up. And this is where any of my lighting choices that I tried to make, I tried to pull it from the story. And like, I don't think as much as I could, I tried to avoid like creating visuals based purely on aesthetic. So in this case, what we did was we found a beat in the storyline where the tension rises and the stakes change, and we created a headlight effect, which you see over there, and the headlights come into the room and cast this, harsh light on his face as if he's been seen. And then that causes us to jump into the next beat of the story. So I think that was a very interesting thing where that was something where we adapted and trying to like changed on the fly as we were like discovering stuff on the day of. So I think that's the beautiful thing about filmmaking is like you might have this amazing plan, and the plan is very key because that gives you a starting point, but at the same time day of it's always adapting, it's always working out these conversations before your shoot day with the director and the lead actor and the AD and all these other people, and being like, okay, if this happens, this can change, and kind of reworking your process, really, so to speak. So, yeah, and then lastly, I think the one point I wanted to touch upon that was very important for the look of the film was, once again, the balance of environment and character. So this was a really cool scene where we wanted to light the entire sequence with just candlelight. So we really lean into the darkness with this image, but then there was this point where we were not, and you can see kind of how we lit it with just these candles, and then there's a bit of a moonlight effect playing from behind. So for this one, there was like, he's holding up a gun, and you catch this glimmer of orange inside the gun while the rest of the scene is completely like blue and stuff. And I thought that was very interesting because there was a point where we were like, should we just turn off the candles? We're not really seeing them in the frame. But I think it's very important to think of your set as an environment and create a space for the actor to do what they need to do. And for some reason, I don't know. I think in between shots, I saw the glimmer of the candlelight in the gun because it was a shiny gun, and I was like, we need to keep it, you know. Um, and so now I think I'm gonna. Okay, wait, actually no. So I'm gonna screen this one sequence, which is where he shaves his hair, and I'm just gonna play it for you guys once, and then I can take some questions and kind of walk you guys through what happened there with like how we shot it and everything. Right, lights. So very early on, we kind of realized that we're only going to be able to have like just because of budgetary reasons, it was going to be just pretty much a tripod and a little bit of handheld. And at some point, we kind of discovered that the handheld camera was only going to be used for creating this sense of like kind of playing into his paranoia and kind of reserving it for that section of the film. So this sequence comes out of kind of a it was a sequence we were looking very much forward to because we'd it was in the script and we were like talking about it and it's like yeah it's going to be super exciting to see Christian kind of just go in and do this, and for some reason I thought that having him on screen shaving his head would take a total of like 4 to 5 minutes, but this entire sequence it took us about not this shot but this close up took about 45 minutes to shoot, and he was in character for 45 minutes straight. We actually ended up filling up an entire card and switching out. So this is kind of where the entire idea of like adapting kind of came into play, because when we went to scout the location, we saw one bathroom which was in the front of the gas station, and we agreed to shoot in there, and we were like, yeah, this works, like these are going to be the shots and all of that. And then when we went there, we were setting up that bathroom to shoot in, and then we ended up we're like, wait, we need a bathroom to use. So there was a second bathroom behind it from the inside for the staff, and then I went inside there and I was like, wait, guys, this like the walls are blue, it looks beautiful, like it's just way better, like it works for what the character, like it just feels right for where the character would be at this point. So then I quickly called the director and I was like, hey, what do you think, like does this work, does this not work, let's figure it out. And then we ended up switching bathrooms last minute, and then we're like, this is the one we're shooting in. So with something like this, when you're in this kind of a space, and this was, I mean, there's a lot of emotional moments in the film, but this one always gets me, and I think it's a very like it comes at a key point in the film where you can't be intrusive for the actor. So this one, I think we ended up just lighting it with the fluorescent light that's right above him, and we kind of were like, let's do a wide shot, and then let's punch, set up until he starts to shave his hair, and then after that, we're just gonna go for this close up, and then we're just gonna stay in this like medium close up and just kind of see what happens and see what unfolds. Um, there might have been a couple other shots we did just as like a safety, as a if we need to cut to something else, but then when we got into the edit, it just didn't make any sense to cut to anything else. Like it just kind of takes away from the power of this itself. So then that's kind of what ended up staying until you get to this beat here. And then he leaves. And then here he's like, so basically he shaves his hair because he thinks he's being followed, and he's on the run. And then yet again here he is, and he thinks he's being followed by this car. And then we cut to these filters that I'd mentioned earlier. So playing into this, and then this kind of sets us into the rest of the film towards the end of towards the climax, into this rabbit hole where he kind of descends into this dark place. Cool. So, yeah, and so this is like kind of like a before and after from when we were in that bathroom. Yeah. Thanks, guys.